Hey, what's up, guys? Frugal BC coming at you today, and I've got a special guest, Shelby Grosch. And Shelby Grosch is a fellow YouTuber, and we've both connected over, I think we first connected over Wealthfront, didn't we?
We did. Yep.
Yeah, and then it turns out we both are really into Algorand too. So, hey, Shelby, welcome, and it's great talking with you today. I think we're going to post this on both of our channels. I think that's the plan, right?
Yeah, I'm hoping so.
Cool. Well, let's talk about, I kind of want to go back to the beginning and just talk about, I know we're both like really into crypto right now. And I think we both kind of came from the more traditional personal finance world. So can you talk about your journey into just like investing and the basic investing, stocks and things like that, and how that kind of evolved into crypto?
So I think it all started out with a simulation game in high school. I was kind of thinking about this today, where the teacher gives you $100,000 or $1 million to trade however you want. And pretty much I put it all into a penny stock that was a 0.0001. And then 6 months later, I had like $1 billion in my account and I won.
Nice.
So that's what got me hooked. I immediately thought that when you invest, you just put money in and you get millions of dollars out. Not the case. From there, started trading on Scott Trade, shifted over to more technical analysis, and then natural progression of going to index funds, using Wealthfront, and then doing experiments on Robinhood and Coinbase, and then buying into crypto. So that's kind of the progression.
That's really interesting, because you kind of went into like full technical analysis, like super nerdy, and then you kind of went back out into more of a passive index fund style, it sounds like.
Oh yeah. And those years of trading like really hard were profitable, not incredibly profitable, but I realized you had to spend so much time to really do true technical analysis. Like, people think you're just drawing lines on a chart, but to really understand it, like, it's a full-time job, and I just didn't have the time to dedicate.
Was this, you have a full-time job and then you were just doing this on the side?
Yeah, I was doing it in the truck as an electrician when we were going job to job.
Oh wow.
Yeah, would not recommend anyone ever do that, especially with real money.
Yeah, but that sounds pretty intense.
Yeah, so thank goodness for index funds. Thank goodness for passive investing.
I agree. Well, how long have you been an investor, would you say?
Ever since I could open an account. I opened a Scott Trade account without telling anyone, without telling my parents. And I remember the first stock I bought was Brunswick Corporation, which is the stock ticker BC, which is kind of funny how that all works out. Yeah, I remember that exact like day, and I remember paying the $7 transaction fee and everything like that to just buy.
Oh wow.
Yeah, no longer have to do that, thank goodness. But so yeah.
Was it did you have any familiarity with the FIRE movement, the financial independence, retire early thing? Was that ever part of the equation or not really?
No, I think Art of Manliness probably put me onto that a long time ago, the blog. Yeah, no idea what any of that was. I knew that I always have viewed money as just a tool to get your freedom back. So kind of, I mean, it's basically FIRE, right? The roundabout definition of that is FIRE.
Yeah, I think the FIRE movement, and that's kind of how I came into investing myself, is through learning about FIRE through Mr. Money Mustache, and like this idea.
No, that's who it was. It was Mr. Money Mustache.
Mr. Money Mustache.
Yes.
I think a lot of people found it through him, and it's interesting because after I got into it, I've met some friends who are also into FIRE and the idea, and I have a couple of friends that now have actually hit their FIRE number and are basically retired, or a lot of them aren't. They're not like just sitting around though. They're usually doing active things. They just don't have to worry about the money side as much.
Yep.
But ironically, they actually, most of them do still earn quite a bit of money. So they're doing the things they want, but they found ways to monetize it, which is really interesting.
That's awesome.
The other interesting thing is I know a couple people who, basically did FIRE before there was such a thing. So, because I mean, like you said, it's really just the math of it, right? Like is if you can save up this certain amount of money, usually 25 times your annual spending, then you can withdraw 4% and your portfolio will stay pretty safe over the long
Mhm.
term. So like I have a friend who was an Intel engineer, and he just kind of naturally lived frugally because that's just the kind of person he is. He'd ride his bike to work all the time and like really liked bicycle transportation and stuff like that. And he basically retired in his 40s because he went on a sabbatical and came back and he's like, no, I think I'm done.
That is awesome. That is, I mean, just naturally
Mhm.
for it to happen like that, that's goals right there.
Yeah, no, it's impressive. The people. Well, he was before he was an Intel engineer, he was a mathematics professor, and so he has some like really he goes
Obviously
in,
pretty smart.
yeah, very smart dude, and he just figured out the numbers, and he did a little geo arbitrage too. He moved from Portland to Wisconsin, which was a pretty big downgrade in terms of expenses, so that helps a lot. That helped a lot too. And he's made money on the side with some tax consulting and things like that, but mostly he just doesn't work, and he does what he wants and works on his house. So I think I think the way crypto plays, so it's interesting how, so I'm pretty knee deep in this fire stuff, and I've kind of gotten away from it a little bit because I feel like once you learn the basics, it's like, well,
Yep.
it's kind of like set it and forget it, right? Like I'm
Yep.
pretty comfortable with my expenses. I don't really need to whittle it down anymore. I'm comfortable with my savings rates. So now it's just kind of like letting the thing happen. And it's interesting because I know Mr. Money Mustache, who I pretty much agree with on just about everything. There's a couple of things I don't, and his stance on crypto is one I don't. His stance is that it's basically useless and it's a waste of energy and blah blah blah. And so a lot of people that are into the fire thing see crypto that way too. And I think it's 100% wrong. I think we're in on the ground floor of something that is going to be like, this is like this is like being in the AOL days of the internet, in my
Yes.
opinion.
Agree.
Mhm.
Absolutely agree. I didn't know that he was anti-crypto.
I don't think that's changed. I know he had a big post about how Bitcoin was useless, and I still get a lot of I
Trying to
still get a
ruffle some
lot of
feathers.
I get like this flack from, I posted on one of my blog post articles on Reddit, and I got flack saying like, oh, that's just for criminals. And it's like, well, here's the thing, and I'm gonna do a video on some of these objections I get, but that one cracks me up because like if you're a criminal, the very last thing you want is a public ledger of your transactions.
Yeah.
Like you want the opposite of that. People like keep their ledger book. If you're a criminal, like I don't know if you saw Cocaine Cowboys,
Oh yeah.
the docuseries. Yeah, like what's the worst? What's the big thing that happened to them? Their ledger book got
Yep.
stolen by the FBI. Like that's the one thing you don't want to happen. So if you're a criminal, the last thing you want is like a public ledger of your transactions. You don't want that.
Yep. And we're seeing that with a bunch of these coins that are getting pumped and dumped, is that people are starting to connect wallets. I don't know if you saw the OpenSea one where the chief technical officer, somebody was front running whichever NFTs were going to be on the homepage.
Oh yeah, I did see that.
And they were connecting, dozens of different wallets to hit back to his main wallet. It's like, dude, you knew you're going to get caught. Like, come on.
Wow. Yeah, I knew he was getting like, I didn't realize that's how he did it, but I knew he was getting advance notice of like what
Yep.
NFTs were going to be put on the homepage. So he could invest in things before they were popular. And if you know what products are going to be, that's like if you knew what Amazon was going to put on their most popular or something like that, or what they're going to put on their bestseller list, and you could
Yep.
somehow own that company. Yeah, like that's really interesting.
And that's what he was doing. And of course he got caught. Same thing with all the coins with the FaZe Clan, the gaming group, where they're pumping, coins, and then they were dumping them or not selling them, but they were selling them to alternative wallets and then transferring back to their own wallets. Like you can track that pretty easily,
Yeah.
especially if you know the wallet IDs.
Well, that's an interesting thing to bring up. Like, how do you decide what cryptocurrencies you're going to invest in? And I'll preface that by saying that I typically stick with stuff in the top 20 or so,
Yep.
but I occasionally make forays into stuff lower down in the rankings. And if I do, it's usually sort of I kind of treat it more like a lottery ticket than like a true investment.
Yep. So I only hold 3 cryptos right now. And that is Bitcoin, Algorand, and Solana. And
Interesting.
Bitcoin used to be the largest holding, and now it's Algorand as of recently.
Nice.
I used to hold some Ethereum, but as soon as I got close to breaking even, I just kind of sold it off. Ethereum's long term I don't really believe it in the long term. Bitcoin, I think, will always go up, but I don't know if it's really the technology behind Bitcoin. And then Algorand, Solana, I think, are kind of the future.
That's interesting. Can you talk a little bit about why you chose Solana, and did you get it? Did you get in on it before the big pump?
No. I'll answer that. No. I think I got in at like the $200 range. I think it kind of fixes some of the data issues that Algorand is having, potential data storage issues, because Solana can still do a ton of transactions per second. I think they can do maybe 40,000. I think they're trying to get up to like 60,000. Don't quote me on that. I think that's what they're trying to get to. That's the biggest thing with Ethereum and Bitcoin, is like they just can't process that many transactions. And if they're going to be, the next PayPal or Visa or MasterCard, like you have to process thousands and thousands and thousands of transactions a second.
Right. Yeah. I think Cardano's is supposed to be pretty fast too. I don't remember how fast. I haven't been keeping too much tabs on that.
I haven't looked into it. I have a friend that is doing some stuff on the NFT space on there just because he understands it. I haven't looked into it at all. The biggest downfall to Solana, I think, is that it has gone down twice, maybe 3 times in the last year, which if a network going down is a huge, obvious issue.
Yeah. That's not good. I wonder why. I wonder why it's been so popular lately. Like it's really been pumping for the last couple months.
Yeah.
And even like in spite of the rest of the market sometimes.
Yep. I wish I understood why.
I gotta, like, for me, I have a bunch of, I think most of it, the bulk of my holdings is in Bitcoin.
Yep.
Some of that because I started in the last bear cycle. And I got started in Bitcoin. I tried earlier on. So I tried when I remember like paying attention to it when it was a few cents and thinking, oh, that's interesting.
Yep.
And I think I even looked at then it was like, oh, it's too complicated. You have to like send a money order to somebody. That seems shady. Like, forget that. And then I looked into it again and it was in the hundreds. And I thought, or it was maybe like at 100. And I thought, I probably missed the boat on that.
Yep.
I thought I went up, look how much it went up. That's crazy. Like, okay, well, so much, I guess I missed that train. And then it started getting into the thousands. And I was like, then I started doing more reading on it. And I thought maybe this is something I should get into. And I think I bought my first Bitcoin amount back it was like the spring or summer of 2017.
Okay. So right before the big
pump.
Okay.
Of course, I had no idea that was coming. I didn't know anything about the cycles or anything like that. I just thought I started seeing the percentages of how much it kept increasing year over year. And I'm like, it probably wouldn't hurt to put a little bit of money in this every paycheck. So I was just putting like a little bit in, it was slowly growing. And then all of a sudden, I started buying, I bought a little bit of Ethereum and a little bit of Litecoin too.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden the market went bananas. And I started reading stories. I remember this was like, I think it was right before Christmas. I started reading stories that like people were taking out loans to buy Bitcoin. Like right at the, I'm like, we're hitting that bubble territory, aren't we? So I'm like, all right, I'm up like 3 times what I put into this. I'm taking it out. Probably not a bad strategy. So I took it out and then I just sort of forgot about it. And then, it was the bear market after that. Would have been a great time to start buying back in, but I didn't. And then it started going back up again. I was like, oh, wow, look, it went up like crazy again. And then I started thinking like, and this was probably last year sometime, I started thinking I should really probably start putting a little bit of money into this thing again. And I probably should have done it much earlier, and then of course it went crazy again, got up to 63,000. And then I didn't pull profits. And then it went back down into the 30s. So I'm like, okay, well, I'll just keep investing in. So you had asked me about investing strategies, and what I usually tell, what I've told beginners, I've been thinking a lot about this because I think buy and hold is probably a fairly good strategy for most people.
Yep.
And with stocks, I would say that almost exclusively. But the one caveat I think with cryptocurrency is that there's these large cycles, and the volatility is such that it kind of tends to move in one direction for a while. So we kind of have these three cycles, and you have the bear market where it's just kind of goes down or sideways for a long time after a crash. And then there's sort of a run up phase, and then there's like a super bull market phase. And they're tied to the halvening cycle, where the hash rate halves for miners, so they get half the Bitcoin they were getting. That usually introduces a scarcity event that then drives the market up. And so we're probably going to have a bear market until we hit that next one in 2024. After we should hit around 100 to 120,000 is what people are predicting for Bitcoin. And from what I understand, typically the altcoins kind of follow that by a couple months. So you'll have the Bitcoin run up, and then all the altcoins will follow that. The one thing I wonder about, that I'm not sure about, is that it seems like we're starting to see some of the traditional market manipulation that you will see in stock markets. And I wonder how that's going to affect those cycles. I don't think it'll end them, but I think it might make them less legible.
Yeah, I don't know. I think there's some very big players, much bigger than we can even fathom, that are buying and selling cryptos now. And I think you could see another Solana happen pretty quick to anyone. And I could see Bitcoin coming down to, 20 or under. But I hope it doesn't, obviously. But I think there are some people that have a lot more power just because of how much capital they have tied up in some of these coins.
Right. The one thing that I guess that confuses me about the market manipulation argument is, it seems like if I was an institutional investor, having a really predictable cycle would be a superpower for me. So it seems like, why would I want to mess with that? But on the backside, I guess if you're able to be the one who's causing the disruption, then you can time it better than anyone else. So maybe that's the counter argument to that. I'm not sure about that.
You could start to fall off the cliff, by selling a couple $100 million or whatever $1 billion of a coin.
I mean, that's what supposedly happened. That's what supposedly happened this May, is that, a whole bunch of people manipulated the market and threw a lot of FUD into the system, and it got the price down so they could accumulate more before the end of the bulls market. So I don't know if that's, sometimes I think people might be, I don't know if that's true or not. I haven't seen like super strong evidence other than the actual outcome.
Yep.
But who knows,
you said something
right?
interesting. You said that Bitcoin's your largest holding. Is that your largest investment? Is Bitcoin?
No.
Okay.
Nope. I still have
fund stock.
I have pretty significant funds in my Wealthfront portfolio, as well as I have an old 401k from a previous employer that I rolled into a Vanguard.
Yep.
And then I have one at my current employer. So I have those.
How do you feel about Wealthfront?
I've been pretty happy with it so far. I usually recommend it to other folks. It's really good for passive investments.
Yep.
I kind of like that they changed the I should say I have mixed feelings about how they changed the formula where you can actually change, where your investments are allocated.
Okay. Yep.
I like it because I like that that natural resources thing seems to be a complete waste, and I don't know why they have it.
Yeah, they're all doing that now.
I've been trying to get out of that because it just keeps losing money where everything else has been going up over time. So it doesn't seem like a good stabilizer. It seems like there's other things that could be a better stabilizer.
Yep.
But I like that. But I worry about like the maybe less experienced investor who's more like changing things every day or wants to play with it every day. And
don't touch it.
Don't touch it, right? Well,
It's incredibly good for people that just want to set up automatic transfers and that's it.
yeah,
It's I arguably think it's the best tool out there because it looks good, it works good, and then you don't have to do anything.
I agree
Nothing
with
against
that.
Vanguard. Vanguard's great too. It looks like a bank.
It does. Yeah,
Wealthfront looks like almost like a game, to be honest,
it does kind of.
which is great for it. And I think great for people that are scared to even start investing. So
So I assume you have more, I assume are stocks your biggest holding too?
yes, yeah, between the Roth IRA, the individual brokerage, and a 401k, yeah,
Mhm.
and those are mostly tied up in um, index funds, mostly just U.S. stock index funds. So VTI basically um, is where most of that is held.
Cool.
So yeah, and then a little Robinhood account on the side for fun.
I did that too.
You, it's fun to run experiments. It's
It
fun to
is.
try things.
I was surprised that my Robinhood did not outperform my Wealthfront account on a percentage basis.
Really?
That's really surprised me. Yeah, I thought I picked some pretty like standard stocks that just generally produce a profit. Like
Yep.
I have some Amazon, I had Apple, I think I had Netflix, but I think I might have switched that. And I had my big speculation was Roblox because everyone was talking about
Oh
Roblox,
shoot.
and
Yep.
that
So
one shot up. But I also did Coinbase, and Coinbase went to Coinbase didn't do great.
I own a share or two of Coinbase, I think, just for fun. But did you just buy 10 stocks and see if you could index better than the index fund?
I bought like I was just putting like $20 a paycheck in just kind of, and until I got up to like 200, so I had a nice
Yep.
amount so I could judge how much I've went up and down. I mostly did it for the YouTube video,
Yep.
and I pretty much haven't touched it since because I'm like, I'm doing better on my I'm doing better on my index funds. I'll just send my money there.
Yep. I opened one up just to trade options for fun. Um, and I could not believe how stupid easy it was to open up an options trading account and get leverage.
Interesting.
There was no checks.
Wow.
I could have been trading on ridiculous leverage and there was never a question of like, do you know what you're doing? So very terrifying.
It's interesting because you mentioned like gamification, like
Mhm.
Robinhood is super gamified.
Oh, it is
Yeah.
fun. It is addicting. Yeah, which is good, but also very, very bad with real money.
Especially with stuff like leveraged accounts. Like I don't know if people watching this know, but you can do this with crypto too. But wow, boy, do your research before you get into anything like that. Because
Yeah.
man,
Have you ever traded with leverage, crypto or not?
nope,
Me neither. No way.
nope.
I will never touch it. It terrifies me. Yeah.
If I was going to do that, I would spend like a year studying how it works before I ever
Yep.
touched it. Or I would take like, well, yeah, maybe I would take a very small amount of money no, because even with leverage, I mean,
Dude,
yeah, forget it.
it's like I always think to that stock simulation game, like I think if I got a taste of it and it worked out, I think it would just be easy and I would probably get over leveraged and make a gigantic mistake. Um, Never
Yeah,
will touch it.
one mistake can just really really throw you under the bus.
Yeah, I mean yeah, it's done. Your whole account's
Mhm.
gone. So no way.
I'll stick with my fairly passive crypto strategy and stock strategy. It seems to be doing fine, I think so.
Yeah.
So I was going to ask you, like, what are you involved in any of the Algorand projects, like Yieldly or anything like that?
So I've recently started using Yieldly and staking on there and participating in the no stakes lottery and all that, but not as much as I want to be, just because there are so many layers to it, to everything you could possibly do, and it gets confusing. So I kind of try to stay more at a high level and just trade on price.
That makes sense. I
Like,
like I like Yieldly a lot. I kind of got into it for some reason. I checked this crypto news site that I don't normally check. I don't know
mhm,
why I went there that day. But I saw this thing, Yieldly, they're talking about this new DeFi platform on Algorand. So I'm like, oh, Algorand, cool. I got to check this out. And
Yep.
I was like, maybe I'll get a video out of it. And it's been one of my favorite things because you can just, the returns are great. You don't really have to do much. There's no hardly any transaction fees. And
Yep.
these no loss lotteries, I mean, what an opportunity. You could win. If you don't, well, you just gain some Yieldly token, and otherwise you don't lose anything.
Yep.
And
Yep.
now they got the NFTs on there, and they've got like you can stake the Yieldly coins for more Algorand and Yieldly. Now they've added, I was going to do a video on this pretty soon. They've added like these other tokens on Yieldly that you can stake for. And one of them is Opal, which I had already been following because it's like a music platform.
Okay.
But I don't understand it entirely. I might have to dig into it and research it a little more, but it's supposed to be, I don't know if it's an alternative to Spotify or it's an actual, somehow it's linked to Spotify, but I know there's a rapper who's selling tokens through the Opal network. And then if you sign up, you can somehow make money when he gets streams. I don't fully understand how it works, but
I guess you're buying into his social network potentially.
That's what it sounds like. I don't understand because it's the Opal token, but you can, I don't know if you stake it into his album and that's how you get money for his streams or something. But
yeah, I think that's the story on everything crypto is. I don't quite understand it, but I'm going to try and I'm going to look into it.
Yeah, you have to understand just enough to be dangerous, I guess.
It's very, very, very true.
My script is always, okay, what's the downside? Is there a good upside, and what's the downside? So most of the stuff I'm doing on Algorand is like super low downside and very high upside.
So I believe in that too. Mm-hmm. After reading and listening to way too much content around it, I think that they really believe in like the long-term technology around Algorand. And what it can do for countries and people, and help this decentralization problem. So I think the low side or the downside is relatively like low. I hope I don't regret saying that, but I really do believe that, and I think the upside is just endless potentially. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think if we don't see $5-6 Algorand within the next 12 months, I'll kind of be shocked.
Yeah, I think it's a good chance in the altcoin bull market cycle. We'll see at least $5. I think that's probably possible.
Before we wrap this up, we have to give price predictions.
Oh yeah, okay, you're gonna tie me down on that,
on Bitcoin, Algorand, Ethereum, we need some price predictions.
I think Shiba is gonna be $100 for sure.
Oh man, I sold some Shiba this morning.
Did you really?
All my Shiba, yeah. I put $200 into it because it was on the Coinbase homepage.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. And it turned into like $670.
Nice.
And so I sold it and I bought more Bitcoin with it.
That's awesome. I actually bought a while back. I bought like when it first launched on Coinbase, I bought like $20. And I saw this morning it was worth like 65. And I'm like, I was like, maybe I should take the 20 out, and then it's just a moon bag from now on. It's like I got my money back, and now it's just anything it goes up, it's to the good, and if it disappears, whatever. I didn't lose anything, but
playing with house money.
I'm like, cool. I'm a Shiba millionaire because I have like 2 million Shiba. That's kind of fun to say.
Go up to $100 a Shiba, please.
Well, let's see price predictions. I think the people saying 100,000 to 120,000 Bitcoin. I think that's probably pretty accurate. Of course, it's going to drop after that, and God knows what it'll drop to.
Are we talking in the next 12 months or by the end of the year?
We're talking. I think we're going to see it in a month or two.
Oh,
if not earlier. I mean, I think this is people were saying it with the run up was supposed
to be October 7th. 2021.
Yeah. If you don't see it by the end of this year, it's not going to happen. Then we're having a different conversation, because this should be the end of the bull cycle. It should be where we're running up. It actually should have started 2 weeks ago from what the people I follow are saying. So who knows? It sounds like what is happening now is what actually should have been happening 2 or 3 weeks ago. Okay. And so let's see for that. Ethereum, I've been hearing 8 to 10, but we'll see.
Yep.
And Cardano I like a lot. I've listened to some podcasts with Charles Hoskins, and that dude's awesome. He's very smart.
Yep.
Um,
I don't even know
and
what's Cardano trading at. I have no idea.
well, that's a funny one because it kind of ran up on its own, and it was getting close to $3, and then it kind of popped back down to below 2, and now today it's been sitting at 230, so it's finally pumping again a little bit.
Okay.
But I don't think $8 to $10 Cardano is out of the question.
Okay.
Let's see. I know there are any other. Solana is the real. I'll let you make a Solana prediction because you know more about it than me. But that one's been kind of a strange one because, like I said, it pumped sort of outside of the cycles and in contrast to what others were doing.
Yeah. If Bitcoin can get up to the 90K range by the end of the year, I think you will obviously see everyone kind of follow, hopefully including Algorand. Hopefully it moves with Bitcoin or better. I think $300 Solana is not crazy to ask for.
I don't think so either.
Yeah, I have a hard time seeing Bitcoin get over 100K. I hope it does personally. Obviously, very selfishly, I hope it does. I don't think Ethereum will ever do like it's done. I just think the technology is really lagging on Ethereum, and the transaction fees and everything kind of, I think people are going to start moving away from Ethereum. I think OpenSea gave it a really good boost because that's all you have to basically buy with Ethereum on OpenSea. But yeah,
I think Ethereum is the Netscape.
Yeah,
the internet land, and I think coins like projects like Algorand, Cardano, Solana, you know, one of them is the Google. I just don't know which one.
That's literally the $1 million question. If you could figure out which one.
And maybe it's not a Google, maybe it's a multiplex of, maybe they all have some role. It's possible too.
Yeah.
But I agree with you that I don't think it's going to be Ethereum. I haven't heard the urgency to fix the issues. That's what bothers me. It's not that they have them. It's that when I've heard Vitalik in some podcasts and stuff, even recently, and he doesn't really bring it up. And the fact that they just don't seem to be scrambling, because I was thinking about this, like if you had a business and your business was costing customers too much to interact with you, you'd be done tomorrow. Someone would come along and compete with you. And I don't really understand why Ethereum is as big as it is now. I still hold some in Ethereum. I think the structures are in place, but I think a lot of it's momentum. And I think that momentum it's going to be like Netscape, where initially it was like the search browser everybody was using. And then all of a sudden, slowly, it's like, oh yeah, whatever happened to Netscape?
It's gone.
It's gone.
It's gone. So I think by December 31st, 2021, you'll see 90K Bitcoin, $300 Solana, $8 Algorand. I hope. that's a bold one. I know that one's way out there, but that would be awesome. Those are the three I'm betting on personally.
Gotcha. Well, how about outside of price prediction, what's your strategy for if it does reach those?
So, oh man, whenever I look back on any investment I've ever made in stocks, mostly stocks, I've always should have held on longer. Always should have just bought and hold it. The worst one I've ever had is Amazon. I owned a lot of shares of Amazon at like $600 a share, and I went up to $1,200 and I sold them all. Really wish I would have held on to that one. But same thing has kind of happened now with, I bought some Bitcoin at 6K and sold it at 12, bought some more Bitcoin at 19K, sold it at like 45. I think I just need to hold longer is really what it comes down to. Yeah. So those three, I don't plan on selling. Like I have no plans on selling them within the next 2 years.
That's a perfectly legit strategy, and it makes a lot of sense, and probably one that a lot of people could follow. Now, mine's a little bit different, and what I'm planning to do is if it stays kind of steady like it has, I probably, the prices stay fairly steady and it's a slow rise up, then I'll probably I won't sell anything.
Yep.
But if we get a crazy pump up to like, if it starts getting into the 70 and 80 range really quick, I'm probably going to sell off some. And what I do is it'll probably be a small percentage that I sell off.
Okay.
Because unless Bitcoin does something totally different from what it always has, it'll bull market like crazy, and then it will crash, and then we'll be in a bear market for a long time. And so it won't be sudden, it'll be a long time, and then that'll be the time to reaccumulate and hopefully grow more coinage. But so I'm looking for like really crazy, like 2-3x stuff on a lot of my coins, and if those happen, I will probably take some profits, but I'm not going to take all of it. At no point will I sell off all of it. That's what I did back in 2017, and I wish instead that I had sold some for profits and then
just left
kept that. And what I'm doing, by the way, for people at home, and this is not financial advice, by the way, I always have that little disclaimer that comes down.
You have to.
Yeah, for sure. But what I do, I'm not going to pull out cash. What I'm going to do is just shift it into stable coins. And then those stable coins I'm earning interest on. So even when I pull out the profits, I'm still earning interest while it's sitting inactive. And then when the bear market hits, because I'm pretty sure it will, then I'll buy back in.
Yeah, I think the reason I would always sell, and the reason I'm changing my mindset on it, is that my next best alternative was always like a high yield savings account, earning like 2.5%. Like that was kind of like all I could think of doing. There was no real estate to buy at that time. There was nothing, like that was it. So now with staking and stable, like you can easily move that out and still be earning a decent return. Maybe not great, maybe not hundreds of percent, but still a decent return.
Yeah. I mean, I've been shifting some of my coins over to Celsius, and on my US dollar coins, I'm earning like 8.8%, which is
awesome.
No bank is going to give you that much ever.
No, I think crypto has, unfortunately or fortunately, given people a false sense of like what a good return on investment is.
Yeah.
We always use the 6, 7, or 8% or whichever number as like our annual return, and then you see a Solana or a Cardano or like all these coins run up hundreds of percent, if not thousands, like a Dogecoin.
Right.
People be like, hey, how do I get in on that? And that's just not reality for most people. 0.0001% of people are going to catch that perfectly and take advantage of it, but it's mostly not me. It's most likely not you. Like the reality of the situation.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. I think that gives us something of an advantage coming from more of a traditional finance background, so that when you come to crypto, you recognize the crazy gains as crazy gains, and not like something that you should expect. So I did one of the projects I'm involved in is called Lofty AI, and it's basically like real estate, but it's tokenized. Okay. And I was really interested in it because I always wanted to add real estate to my portfolio, but I don't know, it seems like a pretty big bucket to put, it's like a pretty big basket to put a lot of eggs in. And so this allows you to put it in $50 increments, and you earn a little, you get appreciation on the coins, but you also get like rent payments, like these little micro rent payments every day, which is kind of cool. Yeah. And someone posted, I mostly get positive comments yet. I haven't gotten a lot of trolls, but someone posted was like, well, why would you only get like 6% in rent? Like, why would you do that? I'm like, well, dude, it's like always 6% though. Like that's something, I think that's something my dad kind of instilled into me, is that like a guaranteed return or something close to it, like that has a certain value above like, maybe I'm going to get this return, but maybe it'll be a loss. I'll probably earn more in my Wealthfront account this year, but maybe next year my Wealthfront account is a loss. So at least I have something positive coming in. So it's like kind of a stabilizing factor.
Did you ever invest in CDs when you were younger?
No, my dad did.
Okay. So my parents and grandparents pushed it hard. And I remember when I had like a 12-month, $1,000 minimum CD that was like 6.5%. And I wish I had a lot more of those right now, because that interest rate now is like 0.05%.
Right. Yeah.
But having that sure return was just, I wish.
Yeah, I know. My dad talks a lot about that because it's like it was sort of a double-edged sword because you could get these crazy returns from stuff like CDs, but on the other hand, you were paying like a crazy amount on your mortgage. Like,
Oh, I think my parents' mortgage back in the day was like 15%.
yep, I think that's what
And
mine was too.
our mortgage here is 2.8%.
Yep.
Like,
I know. I got like my last one. I just refinanced and it's like, God, was it like 2.2 or 2.3 or something?
yeah,
It was something like ridiculous. So I'm like, you know what? Extend it out 30 years. That's fine.
it's,
I'll put
it's
more money into my investments.
yeah. I'm not saying it's free money, but it's basically free money.
Pretty close to it. Yeah.
Yep.
About as close as you're going to get, right?
Yep.
Well, hey, this has been really awesome talking to you today, Shelby. It's good getting to know you, and I think we talked a lot about a lot of really cool things that people will enjoy. For people watching my audience, you know, go check out Shelby Grosch on YouTube, and hopefully, if you're watching his channel, you check out mine too.
Yeah, I'll link it down below.
Excellent, cool. Well, thanks so much, and take care.
Yep, you too.